Hi, in this video, I would like to respond to the anti-Israel advocates who claim that Israel violates international law because I run into this accusation quite frequently. I used to ask people to clarify which international law Israel violates, but eventually I gave up because the replies I received have been in the line of, it's complicated, or look it up. So I looked it up, but couldn't find any international law that Israel violates. In the event that you don't know, international law is not what we usually consider to be law because there is no legislative body that creates international laws and there is no policing body that enforces them. Once disputing countries reach an agreement or sign a peace treaty, what they agree on becomes international law. In other words, in order to accuse Israel with violating international law, there have to be countries in dispute or a precedent that resembles the accusations against Israel, but there aren't any. Israel and Jordan are at peace. There has never been a country called Palestine to have a dispute with, and there is just nothing to go by without subverting, revising, magnifying, or lying when accusing Israel with violations. When placed in a syllogism format, it sounds like this. Israel occupies Judea and Samaria illegally and commits systematic human rights violations in the occupied territories. Therefore, Israel violates international laws. This syllogism may sound right to a tone-deaf ear, but in actuality, all three parts of this syllogism are as faulty as can be. The first major premise, saying that Israel occupies Judea and Samaria illegally, is the most important part, because without the occupation claim, there is no case and no syllogism. Therefore, we hear the term illegal occupation drummed into our heads day in and day out. The claim for occupation is based on rejecting the Jordan River as the legal border between Israel and Jordan without any reason or authority to reject it. It takes historical revisionism with the aid of expired UN resolutions and tempered with Geneva Convention articles to make a fake case for the 1967 border being the real border, when in actuality it is only an armistice line called Green Line. The Green Line marks the edge of the Jordanian illegal occupation of Judea and Samaria for 19 years after Jordan withdrew from it. It has never been a border. The international law says specifically that borders are the original borders of the country, which in this case is the Jordan River. It was the original border between Israel and Transjordan within the Mandate for Palestine since 1922. It remained the legal border when Israel became independent in 1948, and it is the border agreed on in the peace treaty between Jordan and Israel in 1994. It is important to keep this fact in mind because the claim against Israel clearly violates the international law rather than vice versa, as the anti-Israel advocates want you to believe. The second minor premise, saying that Israel commits systematic human rights violations against occupied people, is faulty only because there is no occupied people, but because it consists primarily of lies and of making rules out of exceptions. Anti-Israel advocates make it their mission to generalize and magnify isolated cases that Israel doesn't tolerate and prosecutes. And next to the lies, the list of those molehills turned into mountains is very long, made into a non-existent human rights violation system. The conclusion of the syllogism, saying that Israel violates international laws, is then faulty, at least because the premises are faulty. During a recent unrelated discussion about compassion, an anti-Israel participant in the discussion accused me of having the wrong approach, because according to her, the problem is not the facts, but with how the Muslim people in Judea and Samaria feel. I fully agree with her that how people feel wherever and whoever they are is important, and that feelings call for a compassionate approach. But I couldn't agree with her that feelings constitute legal evidence for accusing Israel with violating international laws when it doesn't. Israel is not the only country in the world that struggles with illegal immigrants and squatters and their descendants, which is what most of the people call Palestinians are. But it is only one. It is the only one targeted for it. I couldn't agree with her that the anti-Israel advocates bash Israel out of compassion when they seem to bash Israel out of hatred in the name of compassion. I couldn't agree with her because the anti-Israel advocates don't reach out to Israel, but point their fingers at Israel. They are not seeking a peaceful solution, but the elimination of Israel as a Jewish state as a solution. What I learned from this discussion about compassion was that when the legal argument against Israel crumbles, anti-Israel advocates resort to appealing to the emotions, which by definition is manipulation in the absence of factual evidence. It is manipulation in the absence of factual evidence that is going on here. Because when it comes to bashing Israel, the truth doesn't matter. If you didn't know, now you know. Bye.